All right, what's going on, guys? This is Jack, coach of the What Natural Outfits, bringing you season 7 of the LSBA. So those of you who are paying attention obviously know that this season 7 is a bit smaller. Instead of 16 teams, we only have 8. And as such, we do have to fight everyone in the league as opposed to it being split into conferences and divisions. It is split into conferences still, but we still have to fight everybody. So keeping that in mind throughout the draft, that means you do have, since you had to fight everybody, you had to prep for everybody's team. So rather than being able to counter pick like someone in your division, so that since you have to fight them twice, you want your team to be a little bit more geared towards them. You need a more well-rounded team to be able to fight everyone throughout this league. That being said, going into the draft, I didn't really have a whole lot in mind. Mostly because I really haven't been keeping up with Gen 8 a whole lot. I played some Smogon randoms when I'm bored, but other than that, I haven't like delved into the meta like at all. So I'm just not really familiar with a lot of the mons. So I tried. As you can see here, I did draft Dragapult, which is kind of like my token Gen 8 mon. I know it's really good. I like its stats and its move sets. But I wanted to mostly go with stuff that I'm familiar with and I know I like. But yeah, so I suppose we'll just go into the draft. So right here, I drafted Dragapult. Really solid stats all around. It is a pseudo legendary, so obviously it is going to have great stats. Fantastic speed tier. I've something in pretty much all of my drafts. I always seem to draft a slower team. As you guys know, I really like bulky offense, so I generally lacking in the speed area, except for like one or maybe two outliers, like when I drafted. Oh goodness, what's the? I'm totally blanking on the name. But yeah, every once in a while I'll draft a fast mon, but generally my teams tend to be a little slow. So I wanted to start off with a really fast mon. 142 is crazy fast speed tier, and then decent attack and special attack as well with a fantastic move pool. I know in the meta it tends to run either Specs or Scarf because its special move pool is obviously better than its physical with stuff like Thunderbolt, Fire Blast, etc., etc. But it does get its nice signature move in Dragon Darts right here, being able to go through substitutes with the second hit. 100 accuracy, effectively a base 100 Dragon type move. Bandit that can really hurt, and like I said, can really go through substitute. A nice U-turn monster with other physical options as well. Outrage, Phantom Force, which is kind of nice. But yeah, it's just like a well-rounded mon. Being able to run a multitude of sets gives me a lot of options as far as team perk goes, but not a whole lot more to it than that. It does get Infiltrator, which means so we don't necessarily have to rely on Dragon Darts in order to get past substitutes. We can just run Infiltrator and just go through them automatically. Infiltrator does kind of have a drawback, which I don't really like, which is when a Pokemon is setting up behind a substitute, and you really need to break that substitute in order for like your Revenge Killer to come in and knock the Mon setting up out. If Dragapult isn't the Mon I need to counter said setup Mons, that's a problem because I can't get rid of the substitute. But overall, that's kind of like a niche thing. Overall, Infiltrator is a really nice ability. And then Clear Body is also really nice, so that I can ignore sticky webs, and other stuff like that. And Curse Body is kind of like another niche ability. But if I really don't need Clear Body or Infiltrator, it's nice to potentially disable the opposing Pokemon's moves. Next up, we have Mew, a mon I've used multiple times in the past, and in terms of variability, you can't get more versatility than Mew. Like literally, learning pretty much every move except in the game, except for like signature moves and special egg moves like sticky webs. But if it's been available in a TM, HM, move tutor, Mew learns it, and I just absolutely love Mew. Especially in draft format, just because every week you can bring it, and even though you're bringing the same mon every week, your opponent, it's really hard for your opponent to prep for it because you could just bring whatever. A notable thing that it got this generation, which is for me skyrockets it in terms of value, it now gets toxic spikes and spikes. So it now gets access to where's spikes? There they are, right here. Which so other than sticky webs, it gets access to all of the entry hazards, obviously, except for like, is it Copperage's Gigamax move with like the steel spikes or whatever. But like I could just bring Mew as a stealth rock, spikes, toxic spikes. That's just like that is just so crazy good because especially toxic spikes has been rather limited. And for me personally, a lot of the mons that get toxic spikes, I'm not a huge fan of using them. With a couple exceptions, but by and large, whereas Mew, like it gets it, and I love Mew, so that's just fantastic. But of course, you can run it physical, special. You can run it defensive with like phys defense. Mew with like Will-O-Wisp and Roost is phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, what more can I say about Mew? It's just a fantastic Pokemon. Next up, we have Rabombi. Again, rounding out our speed tiers. So I basically started off the draft with like 3 super fast mons, 142, 100, and 124. And then also Rabombi also gets sticky webs, which will really help out the rest of the tier. It makes it so that Kite Runner, nicknames, Kite Runner and Jack Jack. I think those are the only 2 nicknames I've honed in so far. I'll think about that as I go along. But so it allows Dragapult to run Band or Specs or Life Orb, whatever it wants. It does have a really fast speed tier, but then I believe base 90s and faster can outspeed it, and maybe a little bit slower. I think 85s could also outspeed it, possibly. So Dragapult, I believe in meta, also likes to run Scarf to guarantee it outspeeds everything. But with Webs up, I don't have to do that. And then, of course, obviously, Webs is really nice for some of my slower mons down the road to really pack a punch as well. But it's also, Rabombi also gets Quiver Dance, so it can act as a setup mon. Bug and Fairy is a kind of, it's a unique offensive typing. It's not the best. It's walled by like steel types and by poison types. But I believe, does it get psychic? No, which is unfortunate. Oh well, but it acts as a backup setup sweeper if I want it. It does get Baton Pass, so we can pass Calm Minds. Does it get Nasty Plot? A lot of things got Nasty Plot this gen, and I get it. Like I always did feel in the past Nasty Plot kind of didn't get enough love since so many things get Swords Dance, but not a whole lot of things got Nasty Plot. So I like that more things got it. I don't like how many things got it, if that makes sense. Same with Close Combat. Everything freaking got Close Combat this generation. And I don't know, maybe it's just me. Like I said, I haven't really played the meta, so I'm not really one to speak on that, I guess. But yeah, it also acts as a backup defogger so that you doesn't have to be forced to that position every week. I don't know. Rabombi is kind of a neat mon, and it does round out my speed tiers. So an important thing to keep in mind with speed tiers is that, so if I just had Mew and Dragapult, stuff at like base 130 can go ahead and run Modest or Adamant, because with max speed they will be guaranteed outspeeding my Mew, but then they're not going to be able to outspeed my Dragapult anyways if I'm running max speed, so that allows them to be able to run Modest or Adamant. Whereas now that I have this kind of middling mon right here at 124, it forces those 130 mons to still run Timid so that they can guaranteed outspeed my Rabombi, and therefore they're not going to be hitting as hard since they're not Adamant or Modest. So that's another thing why I really liked picking up Rabombi, because it kind of fell right in the middle there, forcing the opposing Pokemon to run Timid or Jolly. Next up we have is Incineroar. At this point I was looking pretty Ghost and Dark Weak. Rabombi kind of patched up the Dark weakness, but it's not a super bulky mon, so I can't really switch in on a whole lot of stuff. And then Mew is bulky, but like it still doesn't want to take a ghost or dark hit. And Dragon Ball is not super bulky either. So I really wanted a nice mon, that a nice dark type that could come in on those ghosts and dark type moves, as well as I wanted a fire type to start building up my fire water grass core. And it sort of just fit the bill perfectly. Fire dark type. It is slower side, something and a powerful hitter, so something that can take advantage of sticky webs. Decent bulk all around with 95, 90, 90. Awesome attack stat. And yeah, it gets U-turn. It gets parting shot, which is fantastic. Parting shot is a great move. It got nasty plot. Like, that's what I'm saying, is that a whole bunch of things got nasty plot. I don't know, maybe I'll bring nasty plot in Cinderella sometime this season. Maybe not. Does it get close combat? Yep, it gets close combat. Yeah. Actually, I don't think it got close combat last generation. I'm pretty sure it didn't. It gets fake out. But beyond that, it's just kind of, it just hits really hard. He gets a momentum with parting shot and or U-turn if you want to run so that you're not taunt baited or anything like that. But yeah, it just kind of really rounded out my team, giving me that fire type, giving me that ghost and dark resist, starting to build up that fire water grass core. And I also needed like a dedicated physical mon. Kite Runner can run physical, obviously, with its natural attack stat, but because of its move pool, it lends to want to run special. So I just wanted something that I can bring every week, just have a nasty physical monster that's immune to Will-O-Wisp. And also, dark types are also immune to Prankster. Prankster mons can be really, really annoying, so then we had that Prankster immunity as well. I don't know, Incineroar just made sense on my team this far into the draft. Next up, we have Vaporeon. So I was eyeing Gastrodon because freaking everyone was eyeing Gastrodon because of Dracovish and because of Dracozolt. Those two mons are in the draft, and especially Dracovish is just super scary with their access to Vicious Rend and Bolt Beak. Dracovish getting access to the Strong Jaw, boosting Vicious Rend's attack, and Dragapult. Where's Dragapult? Who drafted Dragapult? Or not Dragapult, Dracozolt. Dylan drafted Dracozolt. Dracozolt getting Hustle. So both of those extending the power of Bolt Beak and Vicious Rend even more. They're just super scary, and Gastrodon's really nice because it is immune to both of those moves. Being ground type makes it immune to Bolt Beak, and Storm Drain being immune to water type moves. So I was going to pick it up, except it got picked up by Dylan this round, and like 3 or 4 of the people spoke up saying that they were also going to grab it. So there's pretty much no chance I was getting it this late into the draft. But I feel like I picked up Vaporeon, which after I picked up Vaporeon, a lot of people were saying that they wanted it too. I've used Vaporeon in the past. I love it. It's a fantastic. It gets water absorbed, so it's immune to Vicious Rend. It's not immune to Bolt Beak, unfortunately, but since we don't have to face both of those mons on the same team, that's not really something I'm worried about. I can bring other checks to Dracozolt. But it has fantastic HP at 130 and decent defense and special attack. You can bring it physically defensive or specially defensive. It's a fantastic cleric. But it also gets a nice 110 special attack, so even without investing, if you run it max defensive, it still can hurt a little bit. And like with decent stab scalds, of course, risking the burn, ice beams. It doesn't have a super wide move pool, none of the evolutions really do. But it's something that's there to keep in mind. And of course, a nice a slow baton pass coming out of the 65 base speed can be nice to get those safe switch-ins to safe wish patches into opposing other members of your team. Yeah, I don't think there's much else to say about Vaporeon other than it's a really reliable mon I've used in the past, and I like it. And it's a nice water absorb for Dracovish. And then next up we have Beware. I needed a dedicated wall breaker, and I needed a fighting type, and I also needed a normal type. A normal type just for an extra ghost resist, since up until now I only had Incineroar for the ghost resist. Rambi did supply an extra dark resist, but Beware supplies both an extra ghost and dark resist, so defensively it makes sense. It also gets the Fluffy ability, which is a great ability, pretty much against any physical bond that's not a fire type. And even if the fire type is physical, like an Arcanine or something, like it would take 2 times damage from the fire type move and then half damage from it, so it just neutralizes. So the only time Fluffy is a negative ability is when you're facing a special fire type. But it also gets Unnerve, which can be kind of useful, as well as Klutz. But generally, you're going to be roughing the Fluffy type ability. So defensively, it made sense of my team, but also gives me a dedicated wall breaker coming off of base 125 attack. And normal fighting being a fantastic stab coverage, only being resisted by ghost types. But it does get the dark type moves, Darkest Lariat, I believe, being the notable one, in order to break through those ghost types. So it has the coverage options there. It does give me 2 dedicated physical types in Incineroar and Beware, but I don't think they really have a whole lot of overlap. Incineroar is kind of like the Intimidate user, could come in, Parting Shot / U-turn, Dark, kind of more the defensive switch in, and then Beware is the one that comes in and wall breaks. Although I wouldn't be surprised if I never bring these two alongside each other, because they are relatively similar, but they do accomplish different roles. So we'll see how it turns out. Next coming up is Toxtricity. I really wanted an electric type, and I really needed a dedicated special attacker. So again, we do have Dragapult here with its special attack and special moveset. It's pretty respectable, but it's not a dedicated special attacker. Same with Mew. And then we also have Ribombee, but Ribombee doesn't have the best special attack stat. It's 95, it's not bad, but it's not super great either. And oftentimes I might just be bringing Ribombee for webs, to set up webs, and then death fodder. So I needed a guaranteed special attacker, I needed an electric type, and I also wanted a poison type, because defensively it just kind of fit in really well. I would have liked to, I was eyeing either Jolteon or Boltund as well, because I would have liked a fast special attacker, just because, or fast electric type, just because fast Volt Switches are always really nice. But especially with webs, I really like Toxtricity. It does get Shift Gear, of course, which is super nice. I just really like the ability in Punk Rock with obviously Overdrive and Boom Burst. You guys know what Toxtricity does. It's just a super powerful special attacking mod. Gets Throat Spray along with its sound type moves. Bamps it even harder. I mean, what can I really say about Toxtricity? I'm pretty excited to use it. Yeah, there's that. Next up, we have the Steelix. So Doublade was robbed from me yet again this year, and it's going to be rough not having Doublade 2 seasons in a row. 1 second, guys. Sorry, throat a little dry. I don't know. I really like Doublade, and it's just such a reliable Pokemon for me. I love having it on my team. It's just a fantastic wall with its Eviolite and defensive stats, but also being able to pack a little bit of punch as well. But at this point in the draft, I needed a Steel type, and I needed a Ground type, and Steelix was both. And I also needed a dedicated special or physically defensive. I do have Vaporeon. Vaporeon tends to want to run specially defensive with its stats. So now I have a dedicated physically defensive mon as well. It does pair kind of well with Vaporeon being immune to electric types, which Vaporeon doesn't like, and the Vaporeon is resistant to the fire types, which Steelix doesn't like. So we got some synergy there. And obviously, Steelix doesn't get any natural recovery, which Vaporeon can cover as well with Wish Passing. So there's that. What I do like about Steelix this year, this season, I was actually considering drafting it last season too. or no, it wasn't last in the GRBL. I was considering drafting in the GRBL, even though I had already had Doublade, because it gets body press, which is a very fun move. I like the addition of this move this generation. It's only base 80 accuracy, but it uses defense stat instead of attack, which coming off of Steelix's base 200 defense can, even though it's not stab and it's only base 80, can really hurt, especially after you set up a couple where is it? Iron defenses. That can really hurt. A nice iron defense rest set can be, if the opponent is lacking any special attackers, that can just sweep the entire team. But yeah, it does get Shield Force as well. So if you want to run an offensive Steelix with like Iron Head, Earthquake, and Rock Slide or Stone Edge or something like that, that's an option as well. But generally, probably going to be running it Sturdy or Sturdy and just a Rock Setter. That's another thing, is that it does give me an extra Rock Setter apart from Mew in order. So I don't have to rely on Mew in order to set up those rocks. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Steelix. Next up, we have Mandibuzz. I needed a flying type, and I needed a bulky flying type, because at this point I was pretty ground weak. Incineroar being weak to ground, Toxtricity being weak to ground, and Steelix being weak to ground, and my only resistance being Ribombee, which again isn't that bulky, doesn't want to take a lot of hits. So I needed a flying type for that nice immunity, and a bulky flying type for those ground types in case they want to start going for Stone Edge or something, predicting the switch. And I also wanted an extra defogger, again, to take the pressure off of Mew and off of Ribombee. And it gave me an extra dark type, so again, I have that, I have an extra dark and ghost resistance to patch up my main two picks in Dragapult and Mew. And an extra defogger. Mandibuzz just kind of fit on this team. What can I say? It's bulky. It gets access to Roost, Toxic, Knockoff, Foul Play. It also gets Nasty Plot as well if you want to run it like instead of Overcoat, you can run a Weak Armor and start setting up with Nasty Plot. I think I've drafted Mandibuzz before, and I was considering a Nasty Plot, but I don't think I ever did it actually. I don't remember if I did. I remember I drafted it before, and I definitely was considering it. It does get U-turn, so I'm just getting a really nice Volt Turn core. Mandibuzz gets U-turn, Toxtricity gets Full Switch. Incineroar gets U-turn and Parting Shot. Ribombee gets U-turn. Mew gets U-turn and Volt Switch. Dragapult gets U-turn. Vaporeon gets Baton Pass. Up into this point, Beware and Steelix are the only... Actually, does Beware? I would be surprised if it does. Yeah, it doesn't get U-turn. So yeah, Beware and Steelix are my only non-Volt Turn core, or mons that don't get that. So I really like that I had that going for me. Next up, so I had originally drafted Eldegoss here because I wanted a spinner, and I wanted a grass type to round out the Fire Water Grass core that I have in Incineroar and Vaporeon. And I'm going to talk about my next two picks simultaneously. So I had drafted Eldegoss for that, and I had also used it in the GRBL. And although I also had Roselia on the same team, I still really liked Eldegoss. I really like the Regenerator on a grass type, on a special defensive grass type, with Rapid Spin. My only problem with it is it doesn't have a huge move pool. It doesn't get U-turn, which kind of hurt a little bit for me, but not too much. But it also didn't get Toxic. With the reduction of Toxic in Gen 8 as a TM, a lot of things don't get it, or a lot of Gen 8 mons don't get it. And when I have a bulky mon like that I plan to have it sit there, I want it to be able to Toxic stall the other team. So that kind of hurt it in my eyes, just that wasn't able to put opposing walls on a timer. And then my last original pick was Sigilyph, which I traded for Decidueye. So I was I didn't really know what to make my last pick. I was gonna get Wobbuffet, but then that was sniped for me yet again. So it's kind of just like a wild card pick. I was looking like through the Gen 8 Pokedex trying to figure out what I wanted. I did kind of land on Sigilyph, just because it's kind of a unique mon. Has an interesting speed tier and two interesting abilities in Magic Guard and Tinted Lens. Obviously it has the notorious Cosmic Power, uh, Flame Orb stored power set with Magic Guard, which is kind of nifty. But then it also gets Tinted Lens, which I believe is a fantastic ability, being able to hit anything that resists your moves neutrally, except for 4 times resist, bringing that to 2 times resist, with stab attacks and flying and psychic. Just phenomenal. Because then those steel types that would love to come in on Sigilyph are going to be hit pretty hard with those specs psychics or specs air slashes. So I kind of like Sigilyph. I was looking forward to try it. However, as I was looking over my team, I was severely lacking in any form of priority. The only priority I had so far was Fake Out an Incineroar, which is one turn and you're done, and Vacuum Wave on Mew. I don't believe anything else on my team got priority, and I really wanted to fix that. So I decided to swap Eldegoss for Hitmontop, so I keep a spinner. I get another Intimidate Mon, which is nice. And then Hitmontop gives me access to Sucker Punch, Bullet Punch, and Mach Punch. Bullet Punch and Mach Punch both being affected by Technician, which is really nice. It doesn't have the best attack stat, but it's respectable at base 95. Slap a Choice Band or a Life Orb, they're going to be hitting pretty hard. And then Decidueye basically taking Eldegoss's place as the Grass type for a Sigilyph, because it gets access to Sucker Punch and to Shadow Sneak right here. So running out stuff out, get 2 Sucker Punchers, and then with 3 extra forms of priority, Mach Punch for Hitmontop stab move, Bullet Punch to hit like Fairy types, Shadow Snake type, Ghost types, and Psychic types. And then Decidueye also gives me an extra Rooster, or an extra Defogger. It is relatively bulky, not quite as bulky as Eldegoss, but it does have base 100 special defense, and 78 HP. It's not the best. It's not terrible either, so I can use that as a special defensive mon. And it does obviously gets access to Toxic, which is really nice. It also has access to a better recovery move in Roost, whereas Eldegoss only has Synthesis. So a little bit more spammable and has more usefulness or more reliability versus Rain and Sand teams. Which I don't believe anyone drafted Rain this season, but Rodney did draft Sand, or kind of semi-sand, I guess. Yeah. So that is our team. I kind of like it. It's not. I don't think it's the best team I've ever drafted. Probably the best team I've ever drafted was the season with Torkoal and Mega Houndoom. That was a really fun team that had a lot of synergy, and it was just overall a blast to use. That was probably my favorite team I've ever drafted. This was a free draft, and especially since I'm not familiar with Gen 8, I just didn't really have a plan going in. I just kind of came up with stuff as I went. I wasn't even sure I wanted Dragapult until it was my turn, and I was like, you know what, this is still available. I kind of like it. It looks interesting. Sure, I'll use it. So yeah. I believe our week 1, here, let's look at the schedule real quick. Our week 1 is Gabe, who has an interesting team, and he's been talking a lot of smack in Discord. So that'll make for an interesting week 1 as we go into the season. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you when the season starts. Bye.